So how do I keep track of all these lost sales? Jerry's got some answers. Stick around. Hi everybody, welcome to the DCSI Parts Guys. We're presented by Dealership CSI, we're powered by ESPM, and today we're going to wrap up our conversation on the lost sale. We're going to talk about how do we manage lost sales, how do we keep track of our department's performance and make sure we're getting every single report of a broken part that comes through our building. So I'm Rick. And there's Jerry, straight from Pewaukee, Wisconsin. Good morning, Jer.
Hey everybody, how you doing today? We're going to talk about ways that you can measure your lost sales performance, like Rick said, and I want to show you some reports that you can use on your system to do that.
So, Jer, one of the things about lost sales, I've had a lot of guys tell me at the end of the month, well, we didn't do very good. We'll try and get better next month. Problem being that the memory of the typical parts person isn't strong enough to go back through the month and try and remember all those reports of broken parts and recreate the lost sale if they didn't capture it the moment it happened. So we talked about in one of our previous lost sale discussions about the rule of when you post a lost sale. Jer, why don't you recite that for us?
Well, it's my simple rule that I've used for quite some time, Rick, and anytime that somebody requests a part, you have to do one of three things. You either are going to sell him the part because you got it in stock and on hand. You're going to sell the part. If you don't sell the part, then you either have to order the part because the customer says, go ahead and get it for me, or you're going to post a lost sale. So it's three simple things. Every request for a part should result in one of those three things. Sell it, order it, or post a lost sale.
Sounds pretty simple, Jer. We need to make sure that that happens. So one of the ways that we look for missed lost sales in our clients is we're using a special report that many years ago one of our partners, Bob Schreiner, developed this report. And what it does, it looks at the parts that have been entered into the system and tracks whether there's been any activity. So if I've got some new parts that I brought into my system, just part numbers, it doesn't have to be parts. If I just brought part numbers into the system and failed to do anything with them, how could I find those, capture them, and at least post a lost sale? Well, as we got going on this, we turned this whole project over to our programming genius, Mr. Jackson, out in Pennsylvania. And he said, well, I'll just show you how I can do a report for every one of the clients, and they'll get it in their monthly package of analysis and reports that we send out. And this is the report here, and as you can see, Jer, there is this particular dealer. They have 629 new parts that were entered into the system, no lost sale posted. So obviously there's a little problem here, and the backstory is this is a brand new dealer with us. They have not been posting lost sales. They didn't realize the error of their ways, and it's a big dealer. So just in this category alone of brand new parts brought into the system in the month, they had 629 that ended up without any quantity on hand. We didn't buy it, we didn't sell it, we didn't touch it, we didn't do a thing other than field a request from somebody that said, I got a broken part in my hand, do you have it? And the answer was obviously no, and they moved on. So this is a great report, and that will help us some, but it doesn't help all. So what we've got to do, Jer, this is the most important part of the process, is that we've got to manage the lost sale during the game. How do you think some of these guys go about that, Jer?
Well, unfortunately, some of them don't go about doing that at all. So we're going to show you some tips here and ways to measure your performance. Because like you said, if you wait till the end of the month, you can sure see it on your MGR, your 2213 report, any of your management reports usually show you lost sales. So wait till the end of the month, find out nobody posted any, it's kind of late. Yeah, so you need to run some reports, and one of my favorite sayings, Rick, is when performance is measured, performance improves. So I suggest to a lot of my clients that they actually run these reports and post them. Let them know how they're doing throughout the month so that we can keep it right in the forefront of their mind and make sure that they're recording all those demands in the system.
Yep, Jerry, I look at this almost like a basketball game or a football game where we huddle up during the game and we talk about the score. And the score is how we doing post and lost sales. I like to do all this stuff once a week. I like to get everybody together, go over the numbers, talk about how we're doing. I like to get the GM involved. I like to get the service manager involved. I like to get technicians involved because they have the most at stake, whether we're bringing new parts in and we're able to say yes to them more and more often. So by managing it once a week, by having a little huddle, it takes 2 minutes, we keep everybody focused. After a couple of months, we don't need to be as focused on this because it becomes part of the culture of what we do. So Jared, let's take a look at a couple of these reports, starting with the CDK, and how do we get this information so we can do a weekly report?
Well, Rick, in CDK, there is a report called RLE. RLE is your function code. It's a report of lost sales and emergency purchases. So on the screen here, you can see we have a good example of this, and we're on page number 31 of this particular report, which is the last page. And we've circled for you over on the far right there the lost sale column. That tallies up any of the lost sales recorded on those part numbers throughout the month. Now, like I said, you're coaching during the month because at the end of the month, all of this information goes away. The lost sales gets wiped out when month end runs. So you want to run this during the month to see what's going on. And at the bottom of the report, you'll see that in this particular example, we've had 276 part numbers recorded with lost sales during the month. So it's a real good way to track it. RLE is your function code, and you run that report. You can run it on your screen, you can run it to your line printer, whatever you want to do. But keep track of what's going on throughout the month, and you'll be able to measure it. And how do we measure it, Rick? We talked about our guide before. We're looking for 4 to 6 lost sales per employee per day.
So it's real easy to do the math on that, Jer, and figure out if I need 600 lost sales in the course of a month, I'm going to break it down 150 a week. If I'm not hitting that number, I need to let everybody know we got to get more focused on the lost sale because we know the demands are coming through. We know the reports of broken parts are coming through the phone lines. They're coming from the counters. They're coming from our wholesale guys. They're coming from every corner. We're just not capturing them. So what's another way we can look at CDK, Jer, and get some of this information?
Well, CDK has their month-end report. It's called the MGR, and you can actually run that report at any time during the month also. You can run it for monthly totals. You can run it for month-to-date totals. So at the top there where it says month-end totals for July, you could just change that. You could type in a D, and that'll give you month-to-date information. The report you want to look at is report number 1, which they call the monthly summary. You want to run that for all sources, and you want to just look at the grand totals. And when you do that, you're going to end up with an output that we have on the screen here, which shows you on page 2 of the MGR report, you're going to see you have lost sales at the bottom there, and we're showing 903 number of part numbers. We're showing 1,121 pieces for 204,842. Okay, so it gives you part numbers, piece count, and dollar amount for all the lost sales recorded. And like I said, if you're running this for a month-end total, it would be for the complete month, but you can run it as a month-to-date total to see where you're at during the month to keep track of who's in the game and who's not in the game.
So that gives us some pretty handy information, and we can run that at will anytime we want to, any time of day. Just make sure we do a month-to-date instead of a month-end. But, you know, we talk about 4 to 6 per person per day. The only way that we can track that information is as a whole. We can count up the numbers and we can do some math on it. But if you have dealer track, you can look at lost sales per person. how many each counter person posted, and then how much is the total. I think it's a really great feature, and I think it's the only system out there that can do that. So if you go into DealerTrack, you can go into the counter person analysis, number 23, and once you get in there, you can specify dates. So if I'm going to do my weekly summary here and go through it with my guys, put in the dates appropriate, and then right down here where it says lost sales, I hit a check mark. I want a summary. I don't care about looking at all the part numbers. Just hit a summary there, and then all of a sudden I get this report. Now this is by counter person, so each counter person gets their own page. This counter person, she gave us 173 lost sales for the month, or for the 2-week period. Big store, a lot of business going through here, and she's leading the pack, that's for sure. We can also get a department total, and right now this store for 2 weeks, 466. So again, there's a lot of activity at this store, but I've also got some counter people in this store that only gave us 20 or 30. So real quick, we can go back, sit down with everybody and talk about why we're not posting lost sales. And the first answer we get is, gee, I'm not getting any requests. Gee, we're selling everything. Some of that stuff just doesn't fly. It's a matter of remembering to do it. It's a matter of knowing why it's important. And it's a matter of the parts manager making sure that it's part of our business. Because like we said before, Jer, what happens if this information doesn't get to the parts manager?
Well, if it doesn't get to the parts manager, it's obviously not getting in the system, so we don't have any way to track the demands. We don't have any way to predict the failure rate on these parts if we're not recording the demands for the parts. It's total demand posting. Any part that gets requested, we've got to get it in the system. The system is set up to use that information to give us an idea of when there's a high failure rate part coming on board, so we can put that into inventory, and that will enable you to say yes to your technicians more frequently.
So the old story is, Jer, I'd rather overpost than underpost, because I don't have to buy the parts that phase in. But if I don't get to see them, I never get the chance to make that decision. So Jer, let's look at what Reynolds and Reynolds has to offer here in terms of tracking if I'm on a Reynolds and Reynolds system.
Yeah, Reynolds and Reynolds is very similar to the CDK system. They have a report for lost sales. It's the 2244 report. Falls under the stock reports menu, and you would set it up very similar to the way you set up the one on CDK. We've got our make field at the top, and we want to include all sources. We're trying to look at, everything that was recorded in the system. We want to know about all of it. So you can sort it any way you want. Obviously, single spacing is probably preferable. You don't need to have a double space, but you want to record your report selection can be number 1, parts with lost sales in the current months. Now, they do give you the option to look at the last 6 months, but generally speaking, you want to look at a month-to-date type of number again, and you're running this during the month. So you set that up, and then you can send it off to your printer and take a look at the results. When you take a look at the results of the report, you're going to see that, again, the same thing on the bottom there, it gives you a total. It gives you a total of part numbers, it gives you a total of the quantity posted, and it gives you a dollar value. So it's real similar to that RLE report on CDK, but in Reynolds World, it's a 2244. Now, they also have the 2213 report, which is their version of CDK's MGR. Same thing, it's a month-end management report, but again, it gives you the option where you can run it for month-to-date totals, or you can run month-end totals. If you want to coach during the month, obviously we're going to run month-to-date totals, and we're going to look at a summary only. The summary only will give you a quick snapshot of what's happened so far this month to date. So you want to take a look at that, and again, it's similar to the MGR on CDK. At the bottom of the report, you've got your lost sales. It's a memo. It's not included in the actual sales value of sales for the month, but it's a memo line. So you got your 112 part numbers, 112 pieces, and you have $21,662 in lost sales for the month. They also give you a year-to-date column on the far right there. But that's what you want to look for. That's what you want to make sure that you're running on a regular basis so that you can coach your team.
And that's what it's all about, Jer. We got to be the coach. We got to get in during the game and make sure everybody's getting their fair share of lost sales put into the system so that we can continue to look for and buy those parts that are trending to become a high failure rate part. Like I said earlier, get the GM involved, get the service manager, the technicians, get everybody to ask your guys in the parts department how we doing post and lost sales this month, because it really does play a huge part in getting the inventory in the building and making sure that we are doing everything we can do to keep up with all the demand. So Jer, any other words on lost sale and lost sale capture and management?
Well, Rick, I like the idea of getting everybody involved. You know, it helps to have reminders. I like coaching the technicians to go and make sure that they're asking people if they posted a lost sale when they come up to the counter and you tell them, no, I don't have it. Well, have them remind the parts counter people to post that lost sale because it's real important.
Well, I think we're about the end of the line on our lost sale conversation here, Jer. It's been a fun one. There's a lot to it. We're going to move on with some more episodes regarding phase in, phase out, settings, source setups, all that kind of stuff that go hand in hand with this whole process of getting parts in the building. We appreciate you joining us. If you liked it, subscribe to our channel. We're the DCSI Parts Guys, and throw some likes in there, comments, share it around with your friends. And Jerry, thank you for joining us. We always appreciate it.
Great to be here, Rick. I really enjoy it, and hopefully, like I said, we get some good information out there and people can start putting it to use in their store.
Well, thanks again, everybody. Let's go make some money.